Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Northern Nevada. My name is Chris Pecars, and my personal pronouns are he, him, his, and it's my pleasure to be a part of today's service. For those attending virtually on Zoom, please note you can update your name and pronouns on screen. You'll remain muted during our service, but you can use the chat box to say howdy to folks or to comment during the prayer and meditation session. If this is your first time visiting us, we are gladdened by your presence, and we hope in time to become your spiritual home. If you'd like more information on Unitarian Universalism or about our fellowship, please see me or one of our greeters, and we'll be happy to guide you to someone who can answer your questions. If you're online, please contact our office or visit our website, uufnn.org, for more information. If this is your 10th, 100th, or 1000th visit with us, it's nice to have you here again in our cozy confines on this drizzly Sunday morning. If you're like me, this fellowship is a second home, a place where all of us can find solace, comfort, support, celebration, and inspiration. Our community is truly a blessing, and I'm personally thankful to all of you who are present with us today. Again, welcome into our home and our community as we spend the next hour together. And now, please take a moment to greet one another. If you're on Zoom, chatter in the chat box. If you're here in person, greet your neighbors with a hug, an elbow bump, a wave, or a bow, but please be mindful of those who continue to mask or who prefer to maintain social distancing.
How wonderful it is to gather this morning in this dry place, in this warm place, in this place where connections abound, and where we only have to open our hearts and our spirits to the possibilities of this time together. The invitation is ours to let the words wash over us, to let the music touch us deeply, to be present to one another in that way that only we each can, that we might bless one another this day. Dave Bianchi will light our chalice for us this morning, and those of you gathered on Zoom are invited to light your chalice at home. As the choir just sang to us, whoever you are, whether you're from the south, the east, the north, the west, whether you were born into this faith, found it, or it found you, whether you feel at home or whether you're still trying to find your place, whether you believe in God, are open to mystery, or still have no idea, whether you're unemployed, underemployed, cobbling things together, overworking, or in school, whether you're holding today grief, anxiety, confusion, anger, hope, restlessness, or deep peace, or all of those, there is a place for you, and it is right here, right now, and this chalice is lit for you.
Could you please rise as you're willing and able? We're going to do a round. Yay! Isn't this exciting? This is a three-part round. And since this seems to be the favorite side of the room to sit on, I guess that makes sense. Can we divide this section right down the middle? So you'll be section 1, section 2, and then all of you will be section 3. Try not to blow them away, okay? We're going to do it 2 times through in unison just to get used to it, and then we'll break into parts. Keep this. Intro, please. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near. It's more effective if you sing loud. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near. Part 1. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour. 2s. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour. 3s. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour. Gathered here in one strong body. Gathered here in the struggle and the power. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour. Gathered here in one strong body. Gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour. Gathered here in one strong body. Gathered here in the struggle and the power. Everyone, Spirit draw near. Thank you.
Please join me in reading our congregational covenant established between the members and friends of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Northern Nevada in May of 2022 by unanimous consent. We aspire to build a democratic community that is based on trust, transparency, and open communication. We aspire to be present in the moment and listen to each other with honesty and compassion. We aspire to be good examples to our children in their lifelong journey of discovery and meaning. We aspire to respect individual lifestyles in an accepting atmosphere of love. We aspire to stand against racism and nurture a culture within UUFNN that is welcoming and safe for everyone. We aspire to be mindful of our own biases and show consideration for others in our words and actions. We aspire to affirm and practice the UU principles in our daily lives. We aspire to stay informed about our fellowship and be reliable stewards to ensure that we continue to grow in love, faith, justice, and joy. We aspire to honor all expressions of spirituality. We aspire to create and nourish a balance between spirituality and social justice. Thank you.
Eliza Gilkison's Requiem was written for the Indonesian tsunami victims. We would like to dedicate it to both the survivors of the Turkey-Syrian earthquake and also those who are struggling with the flooding of our area.
There were some siblings who were cleaning out their mom's house after she passed, and they found that she was even more organized than they thought, and they found some things that they thought were a bit unusual, including a box that was labeled "Pieces of String Too Short to Save." And yet, there they were. Well, I have some thoughts for you today that are a bit like those pieces of string in some ways, that may or may not have anything to do with each other. Most of you know that I'm retiring in a few weeks' time, and the number of services left are getting short, and there's more things that I want to do than we have services left. So we have some thoughts today that are a bit like those pieces of string that are too short to save. In truth, any one of these thoughts could be a whole service and might be at some point. But I wanted to share a few things. All of these pieces represent the context in which UUFNN is moving into its future. If you're new to us, you might not know that Unitarian Universalist congregations are of congregational polity in our governance. And what that means is that we make all the decisions at local church level about our direction, about hiring of a minister, about pretty much everything. There's not a top-down body that insists on pretty much anything. And so we do have 7 principles and 6 sources that have been in place since 1985 when they were adopted. There was a first version when the Unitarians and the Universalists came together in 1961, and in 1985, the changes that happened that really created the version that we now know as our principles and sources took out the sexist language, and they took out language of God and man and brotherhood and added language that was non-binary and referenced interdependence. And so then in 2017, they began to look at binary language and took out women and men language and replaced it with people. So that was a change that happened in 2017. And then in 2020, did I say that right? 2020, many congregations, there was a grassroots effort. Many congregations wanted to add an 8th principle that would highlight and raise the level of our commitment to anti-racism. And so that effort began, and since that time, 200 or 300 congregations have adopted this 8th principle to set the direction for their own congregations, although it has not been adopted by the UUA as a whole yet, because that process is not complete. But I want to read to you the text of the 8th principle. The 8th principle says, "We, the member congregations of the UUA, can covenant to affirm and promote journeying toward spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse and multicultural beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. And so that is in the context of, while this was happening and many congregations have begun to talk about and study the eighth principle, the UUA board, as a matter of, when they adopted the principles and sources in 1985, they agreed to a certain timeline that they would revisit those. So that came up in the last couple of years. So a study commission has been revisiting our principles and sources as a whole, and there's now, which are part of the UUA bylaws, so there's now a revision to Article 2 that completely revamps the principles and sources, taking into account the eighth principle. So it's important that you know this so that you can do your own study, you can get involved in the conversations if you want to, if that's your thing. But I wanted to just highlight today that this is happening. It's going to be talked about at GA this year. It's an ongoing conversation, and you can go to uua.org and search in the search box either eighth principle or Article 2 and find more information than you want about this. What the proposed revision does to our principles and sources is really centers love as the abiding practice and commitment. And so I just want to read to you the short preamble, which is in a category, the preamble called the purposes to the revision of the principles. The Unitarian Universalist Association will devote its resources and use its organizational powers for religious, educational, and humanitarian purposes. Its primary purposes are to assist congregations in their vital ministries, support and train leaders, both lay and professional, to foster lifelong faith formation, to heal historic injustices, and to advance our UU values in the world. The purpose of the UUA is to actively engage its members in the transformation of the world through liberating love. And it comes back again and again to this idea of love being center. Love is the value that holds us together, is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. And so they go on to name 6 shared values. They're moving away from the word principles, but values. And these are interdependence, and there's a whole paragraph on each one of these, which I won't go into now, but I just want you to know the words. Interdependence, equity, transformation, pluralism, generosity, and justice. And justice is the one that captures the language of the 8th principle, which is being widely recognized as being named as important in our values. And so they're not moving away from that effort or ignoring that effort. They're centering that effort, which was grassroots, very much came from congregations to the UUA as a whole. And so then with the sources, what they have done is they have changed the name of those to inspirations, which I think is kind of cool. And our 6 sources name, as they stand currently, name various religions and earth-based religions and our Jewish and Christian roots. The inspirations, rather than doing that, speak to overall values of inclusion and freedom of belief. So they've moved away from trying to name everything to speaking to our values about where we source our religious and spiritual inspiration. So, what happens now with all of these commissions and task forces and discussions and processes and votes is this. They're going to consider whether or not to move forward in this process this year at GA in 2023. It's kind of like a vote of confidence. And then in 2024, they'll prepare to vote to adopt at GA. So that's where we are. And the really good news about all this is that we do not subscribe to a closed canon. You know, religions or congregations that use the Bible as their main source of inspiration and teaching, that canon was closed in the Bible gajillions of centuries ago, right? Where we get our inspiration, we say, yes, this is going to change as the world changes. It's going to change according to the needs of our spirituality and what the world is asking of us and calling for us to do and what it is that we think we're called to do in the world. And so they continue to say that even when these are adopted, there will be a schedule of it being revisited over time, which I think is so exciting and so what our world needs rather than having something that's going to be set in stone for eons or for eternity till somebody has a better idea. So I wanted to share that with you, and I really encourage you to do your own research, read up on it, see where it is, see if you want to contribute to the conversation, because there are ways to do that. So that is the 8th principle and Article 2, the bylaws of the UUA, the revision that's happening with our principles and sources. Another thing that I wanted to mention to you is, and again, I hope there will be a service down the road that perhaps somebody might, like Dave Bianchi, might present. Not to put you on the spot, Dave. It's around what it means to be a fellowship. What does that word mean? The fellowship was a movement. The fellowship movement happened in the UUA in the early 1960s when there was a recognized need for more UU congregations, but there weren't enough ministers to staff those congregations. And so they developed this model of forming fellowships, mostly in university towns where they could gather 30 or so folks who might be interested. And so a whole bunch of these fellowships were born that way. They did not have ministers, and it sprouted a whole bunch of new congregations, which was a great, great thing. Many of those congregations have grown well past what was considered a fellowship at that time. So at that time, fellowship referred to a very specific group of people that came out of that model that was intentionally started that many years ago without a minister. And so because that word was such a specific thing in our movement, and many congregations have grown past that and have grown past not having a minister to having ministers, and because it can be argued that the word fellowship is decidedly gender biased, many congregations have dropped the word fellowship from their name in favor of the word congregation or community, or change their name entirely to something different that fits who the congregations are today. going back to that closed versus non-closed canon again. And so I'm just going to float to you that that's something that you might consider over time. You might take a closer look at what this word fellowship used to mean, again, with more data that might come from a service. There's a little more history to that than what we have time for today. Just something you might consider at some time in your future. I also wanted to give you an update on our Congregational Caring Committee. You know that over the last few years we have talked about our committees moving from a traditional committee philosophy to more of a team approach, and this has been happening with the Caring Committee. We've gotten to a place where there aren't folks who feel like they have the bandwidth or the desire to convene the meetings for the Caring Committee as a whole, so we're moving to more of a team approach that can provide care in a few different areas like rides and the meal train and calls and visits. And much of that is happening organically. It almost always happens organically without a committee structure in place. And what I want to really highlight to you today is that we are all the caring team for this congregation. We all are. And it doesn't mean being in committee meetings, and it doesn't mean committing to something for months at a time. Mostly it's one meal at a time, one ride at a time, one call at a time. And so we're continuing to look for ways to get the information out about those needs. And it would be great to have a coordinator of rides, a coordinator of calls, and that sort of thing. So look for that to continue to evolve and develop over time, and we'll be talking more about that also. One of the things that I'm most proud of in this moment in time is that you are poised to attract extraordinary ministerial talent. There are many things that are going very, very well in our congregation. Many of our sibling congregations are struggling and having to make some difficult changes and difficult decisions. And of course, we're a human organization. We have our challenges. It's what it means to be a human organization. We do need to bring in the rest of the pledge campaign and finish that up. So we need to get on that. But UUFNN is moving into a time of exciting and extraordinary new beginning, a time that's going to take some leaps of faith, a time that's going to take everyone joining together for this new beginning. But I am excited for you, and I expect great things for you. And I hope in years to come, maybe you'll invite me back to preach occasionally, and I will celebrate with you and be among your biggest cheerleaders. So know that you are poised, you are at a precipice, and it is time for exciting new birth and exciting moving forward, and I could not be more excited for you about that. Stay true to your congregational covenant. That is where we started this service today, and I think that we need to highlight that covenant and read it together on a very regular basis so that it stays up and ingrained in us about what we have committed to about how we want to be together. Again, not a closed canon, can be revisited when the time is right for that. Stay true to your congregational covenant and live your mission. You are a congregation who lives your mission. continue to live your mission of growing in love, faith, justice, and joy. Blessed be. Jackie has a word about our stewardship campaign.
Wow. I am Jackie Riley, pronouns she, her, living on Washoe land. I'm the chair of the stewardship team this year. Look at that lighthouse. I know, isn't that awesome? We're at 250 with about 126 pledges thus far. We're 3/4 of the way to our goal. As I've said before, UUFNN is a beacon in the desert, a shining light for liberal religion and for social justice, for all of us to grow in love, faith, justice, and joy. We're at the end of our in-pulpit stewardship campaign. To date, as I just said, we're at 250 in pledges with 126 people having pledged. That includes 26 increases, 20 decreases, 36 who stayed the same, and 9 new pledgers. We will continue to reach out via email. You're not done hearing from us. Especially to those that we haven't heard from, in sincere hopes that we'll reach our goal of 350,000. If we don't reach that goal, the board and the finance committee will need to do some difficult work of decreasing some of our expenses. The stewardship team of Lois Bianchi, Linda Bowman, Betty Hulse, Carol Sorensen, Penny LaPalme, and myself sincerely appreciate everyone's attention and responses and commitment to UUFNN, our community. Now I'd like to invite Philip Moore up to talk for a moment. Philip, why are you at UUFNN, and what keeps you coming and being an active member?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. In a word, is acceptance. When my wife and I began some 12 years ago to do a search for a spiritual home for our daughter, we were hard to fit. I was comfortable with traditional Christian teachings. My wife was done with patriarchal Christian tradition. So whenever they introduced us to these churches and said, well, here's our creed, my wife would cringe, and we'd say, well, I guess we won't be coming back to that church. Well, you all accepted us. You accepted me in my Christian faith and hers in her continued search for truth and meaning. I mentioned that that search was primarily focused on giving our daughter a spiritual home. Little did I know how important that would be. As she embarked on a gender transition in her teenage years, and literally this is the only place that I feel we could be at home with her going through that transition. I want to thank every one of you for accepting us, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Philip. You've heard from a lot of people over the past 5 Sundays. As I've said before, we're 100,000 away from meeting our goal. I hope you can help us reach that, whether you've pledged already or not. We'd like to leave you with a poem by the UU minister, Reverend Dana E. Warsnop. I keep this poem and our covenant on my desk, and I look at that almost every day. It's by Reverend Dana E. Warsnop, titled, I Want to Be with People. This poem reflects why I'm a UU and why UUFNN is my spiritual home. Often people say that they love coming to a place with so many like-minded people.
I know just what they're getting at, and I know that they aren't getting it quite right.
I don't want to be with a bunch of people who think just like me.
I want to be in a beloved community where I don't have to think like everyone else to be loved, to be eligible for salvation.
I want to be with people who value compassion, justice, love, and truth, though they have different thoughts and opinions about all sorts of things.
I want to be with independent-minded people of good heart.
I want to be with people who have many names and no name at all for God.
I want to be with people who see me in my goodness and dignity, who also see my failings and foibles, and who still love me.
I want to be with people who feel their interconnection with all existence and let it guide their footfalls upon the earth.
I want to be with people who see life as a paradox and don't always rush to resolve it.
I want to be with people who are willing to walk the tightrope that is life and who will hold my hand as I walk mine.
I want to be with people who let church call them into a different way of being in the world.
I want to be with people who let church call, I want to be with people who support, encourage, and even challenge each other to higher and more ethical living.
I want to be with people who inspire one another to follow the call of the Spirit.
I want to be with people who covenant to be honest, engaged, and kind, who strive to keep their promises and hold me to the promises I make.
I want to be with people who give of themselves, who share their hearts and minds and gifts.
I want to be with people who know that human community is often warm and generous, sometimes challenging, and almost always a grand adventure. Okay. In short, I want to be with people like you. And I do have pledge forms. Please let us know if you have any questions. Lois and I are right here. Betty's in the back. If you have any questions, let us know. Thank you.
Every month, we share our weekly collection with a community partner. Our Share the Plate recipient for March is Our Story, Inc. And here to talk about Our Story, Inc. is Demetris Dalton.
Good morning. How is everyone? I would like to thank the leaders and congregation and visitors of the Unitarian Church for having us here and for offering up this wonderful donation to our organization. I would like to also say that our founder is under the weather today and could not be here, but he is here in spirit. And he too is very thankful to everyone for your donation to Our Story, Inc. My name, again, as Chris says, is Demetris Dalton, and I am the CED of Our Story, Inc. And what Our Story, Inc. does, and we've been doing it since before 1996, is just basically gather information and history about the unsung that have helped make Northern Nevada what it is today. And we gather it, we collect it, we share it, we exhibit, we come out and speak about it, and just share. Our Story, Inc. is basically organized to be a resource. So we've had people who are writing books, people who are doing research for papers, students, families that even want to know a little bit of history about a family member that was kind of maybe forgotten about. We are reached out by a variety of people, and we do what we can do to help. We share the information, but we also try to contact those who may know information as well. If you go on our website at ourstoryinc.org or ourstoryinc.com, you can get an idea of some of the information that we share. We have a wonderful map that highlights some locations that are important to the African American culture in regards to what they've accomplished here in Northern Nevada. We have information about Native American accomplishments. We have information about other cultures, but mainly we have information about the African American culture. One of our latest accomplishments is helping to tell a story about a community called Black Springs that went through struggles of getting basic upgraded utilities. They were getting water, but it wasn't good water. They had electricity, but it wasn't the best electricity, those kind of things. So our stories has had an opportunity to help people focus in on that story of Black Springs. And one of the things that we have done is, through huge help from Washoe County, is acquire the building that was built by this community when they needed a fire station. One of the utilities that they lacked was help in regards to when their homes burnt down. Now, this is a community, we're talking in the 60s and in the 50s, about 8 miles north of Reno, Nevada. So when a house caught on fire, it took a while for the city of Reno to get out there. So they had to come up with a way to have their own resources in that matter. So they formed the Black Springs Volunteer Fire Department, and the community got together and raised money to build the building. That building is where we have the Northern Nevada African American Firefighters Museum, which tells the story of that community that built the fire station and that built up that community, and then of course shares the culture of the firefighter in Northern Nevada in general. So we're really proud to be able to do this, and we're really happy, and we're working. The museum is in the second year, and we're working to get it to the point where it can stand on its own 2 feet. Another project that our story is hoping to get into is helping to tell the story of Goldfield, Nevada. It is also a forgotten history, and Goldfield, Nevada at one point was the biggest city, believe it or not, in Nevada. And the things that happened during its heyday, again, contributed highly to what Nevada is today. I would like to mention maybe one more person, Ben Palmer, someone that we like to talk about when we do our exhibits and we go out and talk. He was a resident of a valley just, I guess you want to say just south of Genoa, which is the oldest settlement in Nevada. And he was African American, and he owned 800 acres, and the barns that he built are still there and still being used by residents to this day. He and his sister and her family are buried in Mottsville Cemetery. At one point, he was considered the highest taxpayer in Northern Nevada. And you can easily research him. Just type his name in there. There's a little bit of question in regards to how his last name was spelled, but you can type in and Google him and find out more about Ben Palmer. So those are some of the things that our story does. We help tell the stories, the unforgotten facts, the did you knows of Northern Nevada. We have been happy to be able to have 4 publications. One is a coloring book that maybe smaller children would enjoy coloring and learning. And then we also have 3 volumes of 300 plus facts of the African American experience in Northern Nevada. We're really happy to be able to say that that book is available in the Washoe County School District. We're really thankful for them being able to accept that information and have it available whoever might want to read and learn. The volumes, the 300+ facts, are just that. They're just little tidbits of information that maybe someone would learn about and then maybe want to research more about. So we're really happy about that. We also have, we are also on social media, and you can follow us on LinkedIn, you can follow us on Facebook, and I think we got an Instagram. And of course, again, check out our website. And the museum as well also can be followed on LinkedIn and Facebook. The opening hours for the museum, if you'd like to come by, we'd love to have you. It's every Saturday, weather permitting, Saturdays 11 to 3, and we're also available during the week by appointment. Last year, our first year being open, we had families come, we had classes come, we had groups from companies come and visit us, and so we would love to have you. You can come and look at the information in the museum, and you can also see the neighborhood, and we could tell you more about that neighborhood in Black Springs. Hopefully I haven't confused you too much in regards to what Our Story, Inc. does, and again, we want to thank all of you for your donation and for giving us a chance to speak today.
Hose dance. For those of you who are here in person, we'll be passing the basket. Or if you'd prefer, you can use our text giving. And if you're online, you can also use our text giving. The text number is 73256. Once again, 73256. Put UUFNN in the body of the text message, hit send, and follow the simple instructions. You can also mail us a check to our office at 780 Del Monte Lane, Reno, Nevada 89511, or donate online on our website using our secure payment service. Now, let the offering begin. Please join David and myself in blessing our offerings. To the work of this fellowship, which is helping more people grow in love, faith, justice, and joy, we dedicate ourselves, and these are offerings.
When I breathe
I breathe in peace. I breathe out. I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. I breathe out. I breathe out love.
when I breathe
I breathe in peace. I breathe out. I breathe out.
We take these few moments to join our hearts and our spirits together for some moments of meditation and reflection. Whatever is on your heart this morning, whether joys or sorrows, celebrations, milestones, fears, please know that we hold it all together. And so we take these few moments of quiet meditation to allow to rise up and to allow to be held together, whatever it is that we hold. And those who are on Zoom with us are welcome to record what is on your hearts in the chat. And so we gather all that is on our hearts this day, even those things that are too deep for words. And we hold them together in the heart of love, remembering our gesture for one another in this community, which is one hand on the heart, the other hand, palm extended forward with the energy of love. It is our way of saying we are stronger together. Blessed be, and amen.
I breathe in peace. I breathe out. I breathe out. I breathe out love.
Thank you for joining us here today. To receive our weekly emails and other updates, please fill out a contact card at the front desk or on our website. UUFNN is now offering Sunday service childcare for children under the age of 7 in our nursery. Childcare will be available from 10:15 a.m. to 12:15 p.m. on non-forum Sundays and from 8:45 a.m. to 11:45 a.m. on forum Sundays. Thanks to their new By the Pound program, the Reno Posse is distributing almost 20% more bag dinners every Wednesday. It's easy to join in. Just pick up a cooking kit today in the gathering room and bring it back next Sunday. Or if you have a favorite recipe, feel free to cook that and bring that in. All is welcome. After the service ends, please join our online virtual coffee hour. You'll see an invitation appear on your screen to join a breakout room. And if you're here in person, please feel free to linger in our gathering room.
Just a couple final announcements. We've had a few requests for a service we do time to time, and next week we're going to engage in an animal blessing here in this space and celebrate our beloved animals, and you are welcome to bring your leashed or otherwise contained pet or a photo, and we will celebrate those beloved relationships here in this space next Sunday. It's a lot of fun to have some howls and otherwise interesting sounds from time to time with us in this space. We are engaging with our legislators, with the legislative session happening right now. We're having a great time meeting with them. If that appeals to you and you would like to join with us on this effort, we have some appointments this week I can tell you about. We go as a team. It's a conversation. It's not difficult. It's a lot of fun, and you can see me after the service if you'd like more information about that. Next Saturday, here in this space at 11 a.m. will be the memorial service celebration of life for Linda Hansen. The following Saturday at 11 a.m., we will celebrate the life of Stan Dunford Jackson. Jackie will be leading a session to write postcards for UU the Vote regarding upcoming Supreme Court appointment that's going to be happening in Wisconsin. Thank you. And you can see Jackie, she's going to be in the library. If she has more people than that will hold, then you'll move to a different space. But you can join together in writing postcards so that we can call on them to do the right thing in those decisions. And if you have already pledged, but you feel moved to increase your pledge, we would not turn that away either. So please consider that opportunity as we keep moving toward our goal. And please rise in body or spirit for our closing song.
We had planned to do this last week in a live situation, and Mother Nature disagreed with us. So, hold it. Oh, man. Hold that thought. I'm sorry. Forgot that I organized. Apologies for that. This morning, the soloist who was supposed to sing this song texted me that she was sick. So I have to take over. Okay, 4 bars of G, please. Yep. I'm sorry, start again. Love of my life, I am crying, I am not dying, I am dancing, dancing along with the madness. There is no sadness, only a song of the soul, and we sing this song. Why don't you sing along, and we can sing for a long, long time. Why don't you sing this song? Why don't you sing along, and we can sing for a long, long time. What do you do for your living? Are you forgiving, giving shelter? Follow your heart, will find you. Truth will unbind you. Seek out a song of the soul, and we'll sing this song. Why don't you sing along, and we can sing for a long, long time. Why don't you sing this song? Why don't you sing along, and we can sing for a long, long time. How am I doing? Doing all right? Come to your life like a warrior. song of the soul, and we'll sing this song. I'm having trouble hearing you. Sing along, and we can sing for a long, long time. Why don't you sing this song? Why don't you sing along, and we can sing for a long, long time. Don't, love of my life, I am crying, I am not dying, I am dancing, dancing along in the madness. There is no sadness, only a song of the soul, and we'll sing this song. Why don't you sing along, and we can sing for a long, long time. Why don't you sing this song? Why don't you sing along, and we can sing for a long, long. Let's do it one more time. When we sing this song, why don't you sing along, and we can sing for a long, long time. Why don't you sing this song? Why don't you sing along, and we can sing for a long, long time.
Day. Thank you for being with us. Would you remain standing for our benedictions? Beloveds, take the warmth from today and the courage from today and the strength from today and above all, the love from today. Plant it deep within your heart so that it may be lavishly flung forth to change our world. Blessed be, amen, and namaste.
Thank you.